Conservationists and authorities in southwestern Uganda are to implement a 10-year project aimed at improving the conservation and management of national parks and other natural resources. Dubbed University as a facilitator for community-based sustainable solutions to demographic challenges, the project will be championed by Mbarara University of Science and Technology. Bwindi Impenetrable Forest National Park, Ngahinga National Park, Lake Mburo National Park, Semiliki National Park and Queen Elizabeth National Park are some of the conservation areas of concern.
One of them focuses on integration of governance principles into the conservation of Bwindi, Mugahinga, Semiliki, Lake Mburo, Rwenzori Mountains and Queen Elizabeth. But for the first 5 years, we are going to focus on Bwindi and Lake Mburo National Parks with a focus on the outcomes of the results that came 2 years ago about the governance assessment of protected areas and social impact assessment of protected areas, where we are able to generate two main issues that we want to focus our intervention on under the first thematic area of governance. So the first one is on building the capacity of conservation organizations to be well positioned to deliver more impact-driven development outcomes.
The plan also has a component that could integrate good governance principles into the conservation of the targeted natural resources.
Because the challenge that we've had is that different conservation organizations are not organized well. They are not strategically positioned to deliver impact in various areas. This also includes the local governments where these protected areas are neighboring. For example, Rwanda, Kisoro, Isinjiro for Mbarara, and also Chirhura, as well as Mbarara for Lake Mburo National Park. So we are trying to look at how to build the capacity of the natural resource committees, the capacity of the law enforcers, the capacity of conservation organizations, the capacity of indigenous communities.
The development has created hope of recovery for major water bodies which are the verge of extermination due to the degradation and poor land management.
We are also looking at the second objective that focuses mostly on the restoration, contribution to the restoration of the river systems. And these include River Rwizi, River Ruhezamienda, River Nyamwamba and River Nyamugasani. So the first 5 years we are going to focus on River Rwizi and River Ruhezamienda. River Rwizi is in neighboring Lake Mburo National Park and Ruhezamienda neighbors Bwindi Impenetrable National Park. So we want to see how we can create evidence through different approaches like GIS to map the most degraded patterns, hydrological assessment, to look at some of the areas that have greater need for improving water quality and quantity, but at the same time, we want to map up the land use changes, the river sedimentation system, as well as the discharges and thresholds around the wetlands which neighbor these rivers that I've talked about.
The initiators of the structure have put into consideration aspects that will generate more improved livelihood strategies for the most at-risk population of the next 10 years.
That indigenous people have particular knowledge and values that can generate alternative livelihoods. For example, the Batwa in the southern sector of Bwindi have been able to come up with a very nice suggestion that we can develop their Batwa forest experience. So we are going to fund the development of a Batwa trail in the southern sector of Bwindi, which is going to be a tourism product that can generate livelihood for the Batwa, link them with nature, and link them with their culture. And when you combine the three, nature, culture, and livelihood, we are able to promote sustainable conservation. We are using the same model for a community pocket forest called Kobusina Pocket Forest, where we are using the Batwa to plant indigenous trees for themselves, for their own subsistence needs. Once they have planted these indigenous trees, which they collect from the national park, this will create a buffer point for Bwindi Impenetrable National Park, so that the Batwa no longer go to Bwindi Impenetrable National Park for illegal activities, but they can generate these resources in the community, which can then promote sustainable conservation and livelihood for the communities neighboring this protected area. So we are hoping that we will generate a more improved household livelihood strategy for the most at-risk population in the next 10 years.
To this effect, stakeholders, together with researchers from Bara University of Science and Technology, are taking this as a pilot outline to conduct studies for a practical solution to the challenges.
That elephants have invaded a field somewhere, then should be able to respond. I think that way, this system will be meaningful to us, and it will be very, very relevant.
It has a community livelihood, and it has PhD students who are going to bring in research what has gone wrong. So I believe this project is going to move.
Community members in the targeted areas have high esteem in the project that will improve their livelihood and also help divert the populace illegal activities in the conservation areas.
I agree that it's going to help with the conservation efforts, because the approach, number one, the approach is the involvement of community leaders, the involvement of community, and the involvement of all stakeholders. So I think that that's an indicator that we're going to achieve. Two, the person who is implementing Dr. Medad has already implemented a project with us on battle forest experience, and it went well. So I think now I'm also the implementing team. I think this project is going to move.
The fast-growing tourism sites in southwestern is among those that ranked Uganda as top tourist destination and one of the only 3 countries with about 50% of the world's known population of endangered mountain gorillas. Existing data shows that the travel and tourism sector contributes more than 2.5% of Uganda's GDP annually. However, environmentalists say that if strategies to boost conservation are not upgraded, the industry could suffer immense losses.